Good evening all from G8GKQ. Seems to be working. Let's mute the sound on that. Mute the sound on this one that's just about to shout at me. Yes, Mike, that was in a previous life. Good evening, Richard. Good to see everybody on early. Oh, looks like a really busy night, actually. Yep, got you, Bernie. Might as well start early as everybody's here. Good evening all. Look at the right camera. I've got so many cameras around the place here. And welcome to the BATC Thursday Night Net. What's going on this week? On Saturday, it's the RSGB AGM at 12 o'clock being streamed on here and on a couple of RSGB channels as well. Don't forget to put 12th, 13th of June in your diaries for the IARU contest, and there's an activity weekend on 15th and 16th of May, so worth planning for that as well. Tonight the order will be G8GTZ first, followed by G0MJW, G4XAT, Martin G4FKK, John G7JTT, Rob M0DTS, James G0DQH, Colin G4KLB, Richard GI4DOH, and Bernie G4HJW. So a real full house. So let's keep the orders short and sharp. And straight round to Knoll to see some 47 gigs magic. G8GTZ and the net G8GKQ. No video, no video, no video.
but that's because I'm on mute. Just thought I'd do that. So Noel, we got your sort of black cat at night image, but audio was there. Could hear your audio. Evening, everyone. Bit quicker than I was expecting. Not really ready or prepared or anything, but there's not much to say on this first over. I was just testing earlier, by the way, with HPSK. The quality is so much better when you've got 600 kilobits to play with than 300 kilobits. It's much better, especially with movement. Right, X18 next as well. Oh no, GTZ next. Okay, right, thanks for that. So what can I talk about? I was just going to talk about what's on the bench again, because that seems to be a recurring topic, and draw your attention to the thing here which is hiding, which is this bit. That little red PCB is a Winter Hill board, and it's the LNB power supply. And I've seen a few comments on the net regarding people wondering when they're going to be in stock, etc., and everyone buying two and wondering why they're buying two. And I do wonder, it's an optional board. It's not necessary for the Winter Hill to work, and it's not even necessary to use it with an LNB. If you only want a single polarization, you can just run it from 12 volts from the LM317 regulator, and that will work. So you don't need to buy all the bits for the Winter Hill, and it might help with the stocks if you didn't. But I think Noel's got some more, and he'll probably tell us in his over as to when he's expecting them to appear back in stock. But that's the board that provides the LNB power supply. And unless you need two LNBs, you only really need one board. I know people like to build the whole thing, but it's not always necessary. Oh, Noel says he's just ordered 100. Oh dear, that probably cost it almost $10. Right. What else is on the bench? Very cheap but very good stereo VU meter that appeared from AliExpress. You can see it working there. It's got some music playing into it. I challenge anyone to work out what song is playing, because there's no sound coming out. But that's being driven by a thing called Runode Audio, which is another Raspberry Pi application. In the orange box there's a Raspberry Pi 3 and an audio card, and it produces very, very good quality audio. Still working on the power meter that is using the same sort of design as Jim. I've ordered another meter to make another one, a more sensitive one, to see if it makes a difference. I did a whole load of measurements actually of power versus levels, and plotted a graph, and it's interesting. It's following a square root law, which I guess is what we'd expect, very similar to what's on the bird thought. Okay, otherwise I don't think there's much else to talk about there. Bullseye LNB has appeared as well. So let's pass it round to Noel. It's over to you, Noel. G8GTZ G0MJW.
Sort of been busy doing this, that and the other just for a change. Last Friday I went out portable stroke mobile with Martin on the base station, and I managed to get into HV on a vertical collinear from the Woldingham Ridge, which is the nearest height point for me, and I then transmitted DVB-T part of the way to Martin's house, and then went back to HV, and this time I used this gadget, which is my vertical 70 SEMS full wave dipole, only I modified it. This red bit that you can see, it sits on top of a fishing pole of whatever length you want to use, so I can go horizontal, which is what I did, or vertical for talk back or whatever you want to use it for. It's a beautiful match, it's very broad, and I got into HV with ease from Sanderstead Hill, so that was promising. DVB-T all the way to Martin's QTH, and then I drove round the locality. We tried different symbol rates, we tried DVB-S2, and basically none of it seems to like movement. I pointed the camera at me in the car, so there was less picture movement. Didn't seem to make much difference. Now the other thing, a while back I made a 23 Sen Yagi from one of the on the web designs, and then I exported it to Managal, and it modelled up okay, and it's built within 1/10 of a millimetre, but it didn't match on the frequency it was supposed to. I tried trimming the driven elements, which are down the other end obviously. There we are, that's the driven end, and it didn't improve things, but a colleague of mine suggested I try spacing the elements off the boom, and indeed somebody else has done just that, and it's a very nice Yagi. So there's a captive nut in there which I drop in during the print process, screws on, slide the elements in and give that a go. So that'll do from me. Round to you then, Martin. G4FKK to pick it up from G4XAT in the BATC Thursday Evening Net. Cheers.
Yes, evening all. I think this is working. I'm using the Winter Hill today, so learning how to drive that a bit. In fact, if I do that and then do something else, God, I'm a bit sluggish on this. I've got so many scenes now in OBS. That one or that one? That one. There you go. So there, proves it works. Oh, just turn the wrong volume knob down because it's not the Ryde receiver. Anyway, yes. Oh, that actually proves it works, doesn't it? I have to put the right picture on. God, I'm very ham-fisted today. Yes, good evening all, and yeah, it's Big Net, so I won't drone on over long, hopefully. Just to say I'm very pleased with the Winter Hill. It's not in its box yet, although I have got a case for it. But I want to be in the right frame of mind to cut out all the holes. Well, unless, Rob, you're doing postal requests, because your mill seems to work very well. Anyway, there it is. Mike, I've still got the little switch mode power supply on the side, because I still haven't got a 3 amp regulator for it, but that works fine. Doesn't make any noise on top band, so that's good. And I've got a 5 volt regulator instead of a 2 watt surface mount resistor for the fan. Oh, and I had to wind my own inductors because DigiKey had run out of those as well. You did say I could put a short circuit in, but I thought I'd wind similarly micro henried inductors. Yes, Gareth said the mobile tests are very interesting actually. I came to the conclusion that 333 was 333 kilohertz DVB-T was the most reliable. 150 wasn't as reliable as we thought it might be, but there's all sorts of factors that could be. And Gareth, this is still only about as far as I've got with my 70 SEMS aerial. That's the spreadsheet of the dimensions, although I have got all the bits. Oh, and Mike, there's my LNB power board. I only got one because Noel was only selling them one at a time at the time, and I haven't got any bits to put on it yet anyway. And I'm using a bias T arrangement to power the LNB. Right, that's probably enough for me. So round to you, John. G7JTT. Trust you're well. G4FKK is standing by.
Right, good evening all. Trust everyone. Yeah, sorry, yeah, Martin, yeah, all well was end. Actually had some time off. Right, so try and get some audio off. That's better. Yes, I've had most of the week off actually. I'm back to work, not tomorrow, Saturday. But the XYL's not seen her mother for 6 or 7 months, something like that, whatever it is. Anyway, she was desperate to go and see her, but the problem is her mother lives in Lincolnshire, so with the rules being the rules, we couldn't stay anywhere, we couldn't stay at the house, so it was a case of driving all out there and back in one day. I dropped her off at her mother's. I then went portable in the hope of working some people in the Lincolnshire area. Unfortunately, they were either all at work or still in bed, whichever. But I did manage to get into VL, which was quite nice. Albeit I had to wind the ports down all the way down. Of course, I only ever leave it on S2 now, so I had to go back to just QPSK, and I had to drop it down to MPEG-2. It didn't appear to work with H.264 either, so and it seemed to have an issue with my audio, which I'm assuming probably would have been AAC, and perhaps it didn't see it. But anyway, it got in, and that was fine. It was a couple of watts or so. But it was quite surprising actually with Lincolnshire. It was, or Lincoln itself. I always remember the cathedral being on a hill, so you'd expect to be able to see it from pretty much anywhere, being as it's fairly flat around that place. But it's not. All south of it, where I was, it's much, much higher than Lincoln. And when you look on the profiles, it's sort of like that. Then it drops down into Lincoln, then it comes up with a little bump where the actual cathedral is. So I had to go to the east of Lincoln in the end, but I found some random car park which was Cherry Tree Fields or something it was called, I think, something like that. Where there was a WI meeting going on, and some idiot like me turns up with a car and starts bolting aerials onto the to the thing. But anyway, so that was yesterday, wasn't it? Yes, it is Thursday today, isn't it? Yeah. So nearly 500 miles, I think, in one day, which was some going. But today I had a little device turn up. I'm just going to change screens when I remember what one we're doing. There we go. And I saw what audio going. Meeting going on. Oh, so somebody did like me turns up with a car and starts bolting aerials onto mute that one. Right, what you can see there is the Raspberry Pi screen being captured. I know everyone's got these things, but you mean I'm late to the game with it. But I picked up a video capture device, but not the ones that everyone's been buying. This thing's got a video loop through on it, and it can be powered separately. So the idea is, and I've seen this suggested that it's going to work, I should be able to use a on-the-go cable with one of my various Android devices and turn it into a HDMI monitor. So I'm just waiting for an on-the-go cable because I realised the one I had didn't work. And as soon as that turns up, I can try it. But if I go over to this one and move over, you'll see. I can turn all. I don't know if I can turn the light on. We'll see. Probably can't now. Anyway, there's the device there. If you can see it. Sorry, it's the thing above it's starting to. No, it's not going to work, is it? I'll unplug it on the next over and I'll show you anyway. But it's a video loop through. It's supposed to be 4K, but it's not. I've found the sweet spot for it is around 1080p, but only about 15 frames per second. So, but it kind of works, and it's about £8 or so. So, oh, and the other thing you probably did see on there as well, which I meant to say, which I'll just quickly go back to it. There's Rob's. I'm pointing to the screen. Sorry, you can see in the bottom right hand corner. There's Rob's little quick tune program running on the Raspberry Pi as well. So it potentially means you could have a complete standalone Winter Hill with a keyboard and a mouse, and you wouldn't need to have a PC connected to it. Anyway, with that, I should pass it on round to Rob, M0 DTS G7JTT.
Ooh, it's working. That's good. Is the camera working? It is. Yep. Evening, everybody. Interesting stuff coming round there. Evening. Terry says evening as well. He's listening on 750. Not a great deal to report tonight, really, but yeah, I've been working the last few days, so nothing really new since last week. Interested on the mobile test. It's surprising that you're getting so choppy results with even just DVB-S. It's the tests I did with Terry using 2 meters worked extremely well, but there is a but there because we were in quite open area, I suppose, a lot of the time. Fairly rural route from work, my route that I did it. But I was running about 7 watts of DVB-S on 146.5, and that was into a, is it a 5/8 or a 7/8? It's quite a long whip antenna on top of the van, so quite a bit of clearance, and it's quite high up, so maybe that makes a difference. I'm going to guess that DVB-T at the moment, because it takes so long to lock, you'll probably have worse results with DVB-T than you do with DVB-S, or S2 should probably be even quicker. But the 10-second turnaround time on DVB-T is a bit of a problem for mobile. Seemingly, when it drops out, it seems to stop and then restart, and that's what I experienced anyway when we were doing just local test. But you seem to get about a 9 or 10 second delay before it would reacquire and lock on again. That might have changed now, but that was at the beginning. Machined panels, Martin, yeah. I don't think that's going to happen. Next year maybe, don't know. When I get around to doing something maybe, but unlikely. VL John, chances are it's still using an MPEG-2 set-top box that probably doesn't support AAC even. It's probably just a basic set-top box. There won't be any Ryde receivers in there, I don't think, yet. So that's probably why you're having problems there. Trying to think. I'm back on the original old Pluto firmware and HDMI encoder box tonight, so comments on video and stuff. It does look a little bit slow actually, just looking at the video there. Frames per second, but latency is really good. It's just done, well, just about 2 seconds, but yeah, it looks like my frame rate's a little bit slow. What else? No, just to say that Barry and Bob have been playing with the 30 terahertz, the thermal band. I don't know, do we call it that one? Not sure, but they've managed a 2-way QSO on 30 terahertz, 45 meters, I think it is, something like that. So that's a first anyway. So that's been quite interesting following activities on there. Right, well, I think that's it for me for the moment. Nothing really else interesting to show. So I'll put it round to Jim. G0 DQH, M0 DTS in the BATC Net.
Okay, G0 DQH. Good evening, everyone. Haven't been around for a couple of weeks. We had a software issue with the PC, and for some reason it was quite simple. John actually spotted it as a 3 instead of a 2, so it was trying to transmit HD. And I'm not quite there yet. Anyway, that was sorted, and thanks to you, John, and that's all working again now. A couple of things. I had the meter come from Jim, and if it's correct, the output from the PA is 25 watts. I've got to try it again, and just to make sure, it says 25 watts, so who knows. Anyway, the other thing I found I've been doing some tidying up actually in the shack, and I came across this. This was a radio class at school, and obviously I'm on the right there. That's Chris Bonner on the left, and Mr. Thompson, who was the metalwork teacher in those days. And it was an amazing class. We actually did, the BBC came and we actually were live on BBC TV in the 50s, so there you go. Anyway, that's really a short one from me tonight, because I won't be around for a second go, and I'll pass it on to the next one, which is G4KOB from G0DQH. When I put my call sign back up again, there we go. Okay, from G0DQH, see.
Okay, thanks a lot, Jim. Excellent. Okay. That's all right. Let's get me picture back. There we go. Right. Very good evening, everyone. We've made it again. I nearly overrun because I tend to be on SQ most of the time. So I nearly did a simulcast where we're on SQ and QO100 at the same time. I've done that a few times just for a bit of interest, but as you can watch this on the obviously BATC stream, then it's a bit superfluous, really. so I didn't bother with that this evening. But what have I been doing? It's been very busy with domestic items. I've fixed the 3D printer over here. It had some overheating separate drive. Yeah, a bit of research informs me that it's a common problem. This is an Ender 3 V2. This one. No problems with the original one at all, but had shifting layers quite badly, and it just got worse and worse. I was just attempting to print. What started as a simple project was to print some cable hangers, which you can't see at the moment, but they're over there, to hang the cables up on the wall. Turned into a bit of a saga because I had this problem with it, but in the end, I've changed the main board to the latest version, put the latest firmware in, and everything's fixed now, so so that's good. It seems to affect those manufactured around about Christmas time. There's sort of a 2-month block where the ones that are fitted with the older board seem to be giving troubles for most people, but the manufacturer doesn't seem to want to put their hand up about that. But nonetheless, I just bought another one. They don't sell the main board with the right firmware for this printer. They only sell it as an upgrade for earlier versions, so that involved me flashing the firmware and such like. Anyway, but that's all done now. The other thing I've been messing about with these little cameras here, you know, this type is my favourite type. I've got another one of the ones I normally use, the little Panasonics. There we go. This one was also an eBay purchase, and has some issues. You have to hit it. You have to hit it while it's shutting down, and then it's all right. But that's not always convenient to do. So I figured I would take this apart, but I didn't really want to start delving into it. I've done a few camcorders in the past, but you can easily break something when you go delving in there. So I figured what I would do is I would try and obtain some spare parts. So I got this camcorder for the princely sum of £6.30, which is the same. It's exactly the same, but just a different colour. As sold as faulty, so you could be anything, could be exactly the same fault, couldn't it? Really, but I can't find anything wrong with it. It seems to work perfectly, and so I'm not going to cannibalise this thing after all. So £6.30. I said this is my favoured sort of go-to camera that I use most of the time on SQ and when I'm out and about. So a bit of a bargain, there. Other things I've been doing is I built a case. I normally sort of put the holes in the case once I've actually built the project, but just waiting for the PCBs to come in stock. I shall have two of those LMB boards. Definitely, I have to fit everything, obviously. So I've got two in the other one. The other one's working fine down there. That's installed again now. But so we're ready with this. I've done some little mods, not as pretty. Actually, it might be better on this other camera actually, for this particular bit. Not as pretty as as to that fancy Raspberry Pi. I've also upgraded the feet to. I drilled and tapped and screwed these in because I often find those other little feet sometimes fall off. So there we go. There we go. So we got that. That's all ready now. All I need is the PCBs, which hopefully won't be too long about. So I've even done the holes in the side for the other bits. So that's all. That's good to go. I was surprised to find this one. I found this blue one on Farnell's, and they had one left. I would have thought they would have been all gone, but found that the last one said one in stock. I thought I'll have that. so actually, that other camera might be slightly better. Actually, I fancy it might be. Let's just see. Yeah, there we are. This camera I'm using here is a C930E. Unlikely to work on ports down, so don't rush out and buy these. But it has a wider field of view for certain shots I quite like. You can obviously zoom in on it just the same if you want to. It seems to be marginally better as far as autofocus, just maybe a tiny edge on that. And allegedly, although I don't actually use the sound from a C920 or similar, marginally better. I found the C920 audio a little sort of echoey and boomy and such like, and allegedly this one is better, but I've not actually bothered to try it because I don't generally use the audio from it. So there we go. Right, that's that. That's probably enough. There's a few on tonight, so that's probably enough for me. I can tend to rabbit on a bit. I'm used to doing 1 hour overs, you see, at least. So let's see. I've missed it. The list is gone. The list is gone. The list was there, wasn't it? Whoever's going to take it next. There it is. After me is GI4DOH. So over to Northern Ireland. Let's find the test card. Find the guide. Give a control this thing. Okay, 73s for now. G4KLB.
G4 KLB of the group, GI4DOH, camera over here. The usual panic stations tonight, hence using the camera at a distance. I replaced the hard drive in this PC last weekend with a super duper solid state drive, and it's an awful lot faster. It's everything I expected, and everything seemed to be running okay, and a couple of USB devices had worked, so I didn't think to check out everything else until this evening, and indeed I did put out a test card around 7:30 just in advance, just to check everything was okay, and then it was about 5 to 8, found that I didn't have any cameras, and the little Bluetooth earpiece wasn't working either, so a bit of messing about. Got this camera going, so that was not touching anything else. I'll sort that all out for next week. I can't compete with all these wonderful things that people are doing during the week. I have got round to, I finished last week. I think I'd got as far as doing the printed circuit board to go with the Mitsubishi amplifier. Well, it's all complete. It gives me about 24 dB gain with about 1.5 amps bias on it. There are various comments online about that, but that seems to be good enough, and it seemed linear enough at that stage. I only want 3 or 4 watts out of it anyway. I did run it up to about 10 watts, but it's everything I need from it. And then I move on to the next thing, which was another one of the Nokia amplifiers, now fitted to a heatsink, and if I get it the right way round, got it in a box. Unfortunately, I always go for boxes which are slightly too small for comfort. So I have to be very careful. There's not much margin for error, and that'll be part of the challenge to get that right, and make sure I don't put holes in the front or rear panels where they're going to be PCBs directly inside. So that's all the challenge for the coming week, to get on with that, and hopefully I'll get a bit more power out than I am from the one I'm currently using, but I don't want to mess with it because it's working as such. So that's about it from me. If I had been using an infrared camera tonight, I think you would see the glow from here. John, you talked about being up country or up around Lincoln and the rest. Well, a friend travelled a few miles. This is quite a small country, for coffee, supposedly a cup of coffee out in the garden, but the hours went by and I hadn't taken into account, even at these high latitudes, that there's quite a bit of sunlight getting through at times. Most unusual because it normally rains here. That's enough from me. I'll pass it on to Bernie, G4HJW with the group. This is GI4DOH trying to find where.
Yes, okay, Richard. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to just monitor that. I know the aspect ratio is wrong again, Mike. I didn't get a chance to do a great deal about that. I tried to alter the audio, and I seem to have less audio than I did. I'll just bring the camera up. I don't know why that is, so I'm going to hang on to the microphone and leave it like that. I've just been really spring cleaning this week, by and large, and I'm feeling particularly vague tonight, so a little bit embarrassing coming on. John, I think you mean Cherry Willingham in Lincoln, being a Lincolnshire man myself, North Lincolnshire, which doesn't relate to Lincoln itself at all, if anybody knows North Lincolnshire. Yes, the old picture, James. I must bring one out that I have of me in my works overalls. I'd be pleased to see it again after all these decades as well. It's nice to just look back occasionally. The only radio thing, well, you know, I've been tidying up at Ian's, KKD's, and I'm going to irritate you, Dave, and ask you again to give me the call sign of the archivist, please. I did find some more stuff there that isn't on the website, so I will get in touch, but I can't find the details of last week, I'm afraid, so sorry about that. Yeah, and what else? I think the only other thing today is, having heard that with a meteor storm on the go, and having never heard a single beacon on 4 meters, I've just been listening on the Angus beacon frequency all day, and I've heard 3 nice pings from it, and that's been about it. And that's really the summation of what I've done, so I'm going to leave it at that. If I'd have realised how vague I was going to be, I wouldn't have come on tonight, but it is nice to say hello to everybody, and I'll pass it straight on to Noel. So if you'll take it, Noel, I've got to look. GTZ, isn't it? I get mixed up with you and David, of course. G4HJW.
Oh yeah, it is working. I was worried for a moment I was suffering as well. From G8GKQ. If I duck my head, there's a bit of call sign in the picture. That keeps us legal. Right. Noel's last words were, I don't. I assume that was, I won't come up again. But yeah, Pluto IPTS in. If you can have a look at what the problem exactly is, Noel, I will try and see if I can find anything that's causing it. But I really need a good definition of the problem before I can find it. Mike, good to see the Lime RFE on the bench there. Yeah, it's quite a complex beast to drive. Gareth, yeah, there was I can't remember which make of which make of aerial it was that had the standoff elements for 23-7s. I used to have one of those. I now use a Loop Yagi. And on the mobile, Noel and I discussed this a couple of times this week. We wonder whether increasing the bandwidth might help, because then you actually get frequency diversity across the sub-carriers, so go out to 1 meg rather than 333 if you're on 437. John, interested to know what camera source and audio you're using for MPEG-2 audio. If you weren't getting any audio, there is some problems with it. But I haven't quite been able to track down exactly what causes the problem. So perhaps you can tell me what exactly wasn't working there, and perhaps you can tell us how you do quick tune on the Raspberry Pi, because I'd like to have a go at that. Right, this week for myself, it's been a hardware week. I've hardly touched any software. Although I did do a quick mod to see if we can get Lime SDI USB working with Band Viewer. That'll be released later, so thanks very much for testing that, Rob. What I wanted to show you was my project of the week. It was the project of last week as well, and this is my 144-146 rack for the contest. Over that side there is a microwave module's 100-watt amplifier used for FM. That's the digital PA. A notch filter for receive there that takes out any APRS, which seems to be one of the major threats. The right hand side there's a piece of alley that's going to have some more filters and switching mounted on it, and at the back there's a little driver amplifier. All those bits were in different racks before, and so it's been a lot of drilling this week. Lots of swarf all over the bench. The other bit of work I've done on the hardware side is Nigel 2E0EHH had a couple of Pyro Joe amps that weren't working very well. And I found one of them is actually dead, so he's getting another one sent to me. So thanks, Nigel. We'll try and sort that out for you. Let's go back to that one. Cameras. I was interested to see you using that type of camera. Colin, hadn't realised how close it was to the one I'm using there. That's a Canon HDMI. Which is all a bit useless because it's all 60 Hertz, but I put it into a dongle and it works really well into OBS. So I think that's all I have to say. So it will go round to Mike next. I see Noel and James have dropped out, so Mike and then round to Gareth. And just before we go, got to do the compulsory once a week picture. That was how it all started. Too many years ago to mention, but used to do a lot of that. So around to Mike, G0MJW, sorry, and the net G8GKQ.
too many things open on the desk here, which is causing me some confusion, but let's start with that one. Thanks Dave for that. Interesting plane. Didn't look like it was the right way up, but maybe that was deliberate, I don't know. Just a few comments on things so far. Martin, yeah, Winter Hill, very good, looks nice. You don't need the 12 volt regulator. Perhaps I ought to write down all the things you could actually get away with not fitting, because we put a whole load of protection stuff in, which if you're careful, you don't really need. I mean, we never ever reverse our power supplies. We never put too many volts into things, so there isn't really much point in having over voltage protection or reverse polarity protection. But if you haven't got the part, then you just have to be careful, don't you? The reason for that 12 volt regulator is the switching regulators require a supply of no more than 14 volts. And the way to achieve that easily was simply to use a low dropout 12 volt regulator that can survive a much greater input. So that's what that was for. So you can just bypass it and feed in no more than 14 volts. But other people will put in 18 volts and other things. They just do. So it has to be there. But if you're just testing, then you probably don't need it until you get the part. And you can substitute it for something else as well. The voltage drop isn't such a big issue. You just need to have the right pin configuration. I think probably a 7812 or something might be similar. I'm not sure. It has a much bigger voltage drop, but the voltage that you need into those regulators is anything from probably about 7 volts upwards would be fine. The difference, of course, is that it'll dissipate more power and it'll get hotter, so it'll be less efficient. But that's all. Right, John. Yeah, HDMI with loop. That looked really interesting. One of the issues I have is that I needed to set up another screen with that HDMI without a loop, so I can see what the benefits of that would be, because you could then at least see what you're looking at in terms of what the image is without using an HDMI splitter. Colin, yeah, nice to see that you've got some good feet there, nice stable base, and you're going to get 2 LNB boards just because you have to have all the parts. I assume you're also going to fit all of the jumpers. And that's going to be interesting because I'm not sure what's going to happen when you do that. Richard, boxes are always too small in my experience for what you initially plan. You tend to have to double it and then double it again, and then it's still too small. Very, very rarely does a project box end up too big, apart from the one that I built to go on the mast, which actually didn't end up too big, it ended up too heavy, so I couldn't put it up there in the end. Yes, Noel, I think you mentioned a haircut. I wonder when you're going to be getting the haircut, so interested to hear about that. Now, one other thing I've been working on, let's go back to the bench cam, which shows you the LF up converter, which is working well. I built 2 of those now, and they're both fine. Dave mentioned the green box next to it, but I didn't, so I won't mention it anymore. But I'm interested to try and get that working. But one thing that I have done is in the last week I went ahead and started to design, and I don't know if this is going to work yet, a 10 meter converter. So this is the PCB routed now, and the general idea is that you put your 2 meters in and you get a crystal oscillator, relay, and 10 meters from the other side. So that's the idea. It doesn't have to be 10 meters, it could be 4 meters or 6 meters, I suppose. But that's because I'm not sure we've got a means of generating 10 meters for sporadic E DVB-T. So I'd be interested to see if anyone's interested in pursuing making one of these sort of things. I think I've made it too small. It's designed to fit into a standard 4-inch by 2-inch box. The board is 4 inches by 2 inches, and it's also all SMD. It's very, very closely based on Sam's device, the Anglian. So if ever we did want to mass produce it, we obviously need to get Sam's permission, and he may well decide that actually no. In which case I'll have to redesign the local oscillator. I didn't use all his ideas, I just used the local oscillator because I thought it was a really good design that he'd come up with. that seems to be reliable and low phase noise, etc., which is just what we want. So that's what that is anyway. The latest messing around designing a PCB, and it didn't take very long actually. Okay, was there anything else? I don't think so. So 7-3 to all on the net, and hope everyone has a good week, and we'll see what happens next. So who is next in line? I think it's probably XAT again. I don't think he said he was going. So over to you, G0MJW. Just put up my test card. No, I won't because I can't find it. I'll just switch off.
Right. Okay. I'm back. Righty-ho from G4XAT. Thanks, Mike. While I remember, could you pop up the URL or the brand name of that VU meter? I've bought various kits over the years, but that one remains appealing for its visual clarity, I suppose, and the red one that drops down is a very nice effect. So that's item 1 on my list. Something else Martin and I tried earlier this week was duplex crossband. So we established a one-way, which was me on 4 meters with about 1 watt of 150 kilo symbols DVB-T, and then he came back to me on 2 meters, an 8-second delay QSO backwards and forwards, which is quite good. So that was that. The aerial design, I've got one of those tonners, and every time I look at it another one snaps off. So this has been designed with the grain of the 3D printing in the angle, in the direction where it wouldn't drop off. That's the theory anyway. But the actual idea of spacing them off came from G8MNY, who's a long-time TV enthusiast, but he hasn't gone anywhere near digital. I have a net with him every Sunday. But of course, the other source was a design by G8ADM via Justin, G8YTZ, who lent me his 23 cm beam, which has the elements up in the air like that above the boom. And I tried it on a field day, and it was great. It pulled in all sorts of things. So I thought, well, I'll try that before I junk it, because I've got all the elements carefully filed and the boom carefully marked out and drilled and so on. Doesn't take long to test. Okay, that's that. He also mentioned he's looking for some means of receiving his own repeater on his mast, and he sent me a link to a broadband gain solution, which is 300 quid. And I said it looks like a log periodic pointing into a small dish, and he said yes, that's what it is. And then I thought, well, there's plenty of PCB log periodics. I think I've got one somewhere that covers, I think it's 800 meg to 6.5 gig or something like that. And I've got several B-Sky-B mini dishes, not the flat ones, the actual little dishes. So I reckon with a bit of an adapter, I might have a solution there. I haven't flown I think that was a Bulldog that you showed there, Dave, but I have had a couple of goes in a Grob Tutor, which is absolutely wonderful. A really beautiful little aeroplane, I thought. And Mike, I'd love to build one of those. I've long time been an enthusiast of 10. I've got a Slim Jim for 10 in the garden, and I've got a kilowatt W6PQL half built under the bench, so I should be able to run 10 watts on 10 meters of DVB-T. So that'll be good. Okay, that's it from me. I'll wish everybody well, and we'll come back if called. But before I go, I picked some of these up today on our local free cycle group. They're little 12 volt LED capsules, and they're quite bright. I'd say there's about 5 watts of LED in there, and it's a nice bright daylight white as well. So I bought them with a view to salvaging the panels and making a nice little 12-volt inspection lamp. But you never know. There's always another idea around the corner, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, round to you, Martin. And you can pass comment if you like on the 1 kilo symbols that we tried, since I wasn't at the receiving end. G4FKK to pick it up from G4XAT in the BATC Thursday Evening Net. See you next time.
Yeah, okay, Gareth, G4FKK. Oh, why is there no audio? Oh, there is audio. Yes, very good. And yeah, we did try 1 mega symbol, Dave, and we tried 1 megahertz or whatever, and we did try 500 kilohertz, but 333 going around the very built-up block that Gareth was driving around was the least droppy outy, if I can use such a technical term. And you don't want VU meters, you want a nice PPM, Gareth. Jolly good. And right, quick run through the notes then, because it's still a big net, isn't it? Okay, about your long drive to see your wife's mum, John. And 500 miles in a day. I have done more than that in a day when I once drove back from the north of Scotland and played 2 rounds of golf on the way down as well. Not while I was driving. There's too many golfing jokes involved there. The capture. And yeah, like Dave, I'd be very interested to know how you got the quick tune to work on the Raspberry Pi, because that would be quite good on the Winter Hill here. Yeah, Rob, I was only joking about sending all my panels up to you for milling, but on the other hand, if you suddenly decide to go into business, you've got 1 customer down here probably. And yeah, I think Brian came up with the theory that that the reason we were getting so many dropouts was the encoder rather than anything else. And Gareth could stop almost anywhere and I'd get a lovely picture, but as soon as he started moving in the picture, there was too much bit rate or something that Brian was saying, possibly in the picture, which is why it may have dropped out, because the sound was very consistent. So the signal was still getting through. It wasn't that so much. I am talking out of turn here because I don't really know what I'm talking about. Yeah, your video looked good, Rob. Although, as you say, the frame rate was a bit low. Seeing that on this net, by the way. Glad you fixed your printer, Colin. Bargain cameras look good. I use these. I don't know if this will show up. I'll have to. I shall have to go and look at OBS rather than what I'm currently looking at. So let's do that. See if it focuses. These you control, and these you push it in and then yank it through with a plier. And if you get the whole size, quite a nice firm fit. That, as you say, they don't fall off like the sticky ones do. Farnell sell those. Rich, fretless bass. I like the way you said you enjoy playing it more than people like listening to it. Got a fret drags sometimes, and he gets very cheeky, sliding thirds and fifths and things. It sounds is me. And yeah, I've got one of those Nokia. Did I never thought? Yeah, I think my one Bernie, nice to see you. I've got a similar and a beige colour, but what I really do is a windshield on the edge. There was a bit of popping. I get the same problem with this mic, so I've got a little windshield on it. That was Bernie. Oh, and today on. I did have your signal at first dropped out. Haircut, by the way. The time airline. We were in a just a error. Your ground
Yep, I'm still on leave, so I'm going to say I'm going to go back to work until Saturday. Myself Saturday. Yeah, if I don't turn up, it'd be fun. Right, I've got loads written down, so I'll try and be quick. So Bernie and for others as well. That was the route yesterday, so quite a way up and back down again. Went up one way and come back the other way. Went up in the morning via the M25. And I decided, we looked at the traffic and I thought, no, stuff it, we'll come back down the A34. So we sort of went across and come back that way. And that place is called, right, Cherry Fields, at a place called Willingham, Lincoln. Anyway, that's where we were. Right, that was that. For Mike, for Dave, I was using the USB mic and Raspberry Pi cam with the Portsdown 4. I think everything, well, I've got to take it out of the car yet, but I think everything's working. I think it was, as Rob said, they're still using a old satellite receiver, so the chances are it probably wouldn't take, it didn't like H.264 anyway, so it probably didn't like the AAC audio either. But pictures into it were fine once I realised it wanted the MPEG-2. But that was it. I do know that Bob is building a couple of rides to stick in there, so hopefully they're getting soon. Oh, so I'll come back to that in a minute. Oh, right, okay. To get the QuickTune Rob's app running on the Raspberry Pi, you need to install box 86, then install Wine. There is a video that I got all the information from. The video is a little bit old, and the problem is it installs a older version of Wine, which then won't install the Net 4, which you need for Rob software. So I have made some notes, hopefully. What I'll do, I'll post something up on the forum, it'll probably be easier. But it's basically box 86 and Wine, and the video is absolutely superb. It's really well done, and as I say, once you realise that it's a little bit old and it's moved on a bit, then when you install, you change from installing, I can't remember what version, 5.1 or something, Wine, whereas they're on 6.6 now. So that's all you got to do on that. What else have I got on here? Oh, as a few of you said about TV appearances, I was on TV once or twice, maybe once or twice, can't remember, but certainly once on TV AM as a very young lad who took and this is going to be controversial, a O-level in angling. And that's my claim to fame. I'm one of about 24 people in the world that managed to get an O-level angling, which I could probably find the certificate somewhere. And unfortunately, it ran 2 years at our school as a pilot, but sadly, those that see it as not particularly the sort of thing we should be teaching young kids managed to get it stopped, and hence kids now go out and do what they do without being educated for it. So anyway, that's that. Right, and last but not least, that's the device, and if I can get it to focus. So on one side you've got, and I've got this right now, so you've got an input HDMI and a micro, is it micro? Yeah, I think it's micro, the really old small USB for power in. And then on the other side you've got HDMI out, and you've also got the full size USB for connected to the PC. It didn't need drivers, it just worked out of the box. And of course, talking about out of the box, that's what the inside looks like. I haven't managed to take the heat sinks off yet to identify the chips, mainly because they seem to be cemented on there as opposed to the usual double-sided sticky tape type stuff. But anyway, it's it works. Say it doesn't really capture at 1080, but I don't think any of them do. And it was $7.99 if I remember rightly, which posted. Oh, and a UK seller as well. So you probably get them cheaper if you go to wait from China, etc. Sounds yes, yes. Can I get it? I've actually, not that this was prepared, but I do actually, well, I have actually kept somewhere. I think it's this one anyway. Yeah, there we go. It's only because it had all my things in it. If I can find it quick enough. Oh, there you go. From what was that? 1984. There we go. So, where is it? It's just in the top one there, angling. So yeah, it's actually got me through the door a few times, to be honest. A couple of jobs I've had, it's been a talking point. So anyway, there you go. There's my claim to fame. Right, with that, ran to Rob again. M0DTS G7 JTT.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. I'll just put GB3 PM. Yeah, thanks, Sam. I'll just put
Right, there we go.
next to you.
Turn that down a bit. More coal? How many more do you want? It's D1.7. Is that not good enough? I'll give you more coal. 14. There you go. There's 2. Maybe 2? Or is it not quite 2? Maybe the same as the beacon. Yeah, that'll do. D2.5. Wasn't quite 2, was it? But actually, I'll tell you what. It's just 1 second. Where we at? I never nudged the dish either way, so. Yeah, there's a touch more. I didn't line the dish up properly, so. There we go. Right. We're just chatting on 2 meters there with one of the locals who's planning on getting on the satellite on TV, so something to look to. Right, so this is the appalling spectrum that I've got on 6 meters. So basically 6 meters from home on receive is probably going to be a no-go due to the one house nearby which is radiating wideband noise. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to approach them at some point, but I have a feeling it's going to be something built into the house, like built-in lighting or something like that, because it's brand new build. So it may be there forever. Who knows? But yeah, if I turn the antenna around, set this turning. Hang on. That was actually beaming at, where are we at? 120 degrees. So at the moment I'm beaming at northwesterly, so the antenna is going to come round, go around to the south. You should notice most of the wobbly spurs wander off somewhere. Well, not really wander off, but get weaker. There we go, they're going down. So that's basically on the back of the antenna. That's front to back from the offending house. Still lots of other spurs, of course, but that's because I've got an open frame filter in the shack, probably. So yeah, where are we at now? That's 160 degrees, and now we're coming round towards the southeast where all the sporadic E is going to come from. And the signals gradually get stronger and stronger, or the spurs anyway. But, fortunately, one of them doesn't lie on 51.7, so there may be a possibility, but not very optimistic on that, unfortunately. So, yeah, anyway, it's working fine. If I return to main menu, hang on. Exit to ports down even. This is what wasn't working last week. Menu 2, live SDR viewer, and this is working with the larger line, the earlier version, with the multiple ports on and everything seems to be working perfectly, so no problems with image rejection like last week and stuff. So I'm really happy with that. It's going to be really handy for portable, that. I've always been putting the get one of those LFA antennas. I've got one, Mike. Ah dear. And when I'm beaming south, I don't get anything off the side of it. It's just as soon as I come onto the beam, because it's quite wide. It's a 5 element. It's not exactly a gainy antenna, but yeah, as soon as you get anywhere around towards the southeast, you start the main lobe starts coming onto the edge of the house where the noise is coming from. So yeah, pretty bad. 2 meters, I see about 19, 20 dB of noise floor lift when I'm beaming that way. So, well, actually, probably measure that. I'll try not to be too long here on this over, but if I go to here, if we, let's see, let's just set a reference level here somewhere anyway. So, right, there's a reference level of -12. If I turn the beam due south, this will be the 2 meter beam. So, alright, I'm turning it now. So remember -12 and roughly going into the yellowy red. Going to the south, as you can see, the noise floor is dropping. Alright, -12. It's going to be interesting this actually. Where do we get to about the same level of noise? Okay, 12 dB of noise-ish. It's a different noise now, but some of it is my own power supply, but yeah, about 12 dB of noise difference, so quite a bit. But yeah, unfortunately I'm sort of stuck with it at the moment, so it's hampering things. The only other option I've got is to move the whole antenna system, if I can't get rid of the noise, and move it further into the field, or away from the house, but that means a lot longer coaxes, so then we're going into the realms of having to have networked SDRs at the bottom of the mast to run all the RF gear, do everything that way rather than coax. But I don't really want to go that route yet, because there isn't any super duper SDRs really that are clean enough up to the high bands and things, but there we go. Saying that, the 9700 isn't particularly good. The only other option I thought for Spectrum Viewer is a reference level adjust, because, well, I don't know, maybe it isn't useful. Sometimes I've noticed signals being quite well off the bottom of the screen, but it might just be the line maybe, but, unless I've missed that option. But you don't need to change it much, 10 dB maybe, but yeah. Right, okay, so that is change line, yeah. You've got that problem where you want to use as much range as possible. Actually, what does, let's see, frequency presets, 2409, it's got my own signal on there. What's line gain? Yeah, it's picking up my own signal on there, slowly. 10 dB to a division, yeah. Right, I've forgotten now who's next, because Jim isn't next, so that is round 2, Colin, G4KLB, M0DTS, on a BATC Net, having too long or over. Round to you.
M0DTS, G4KLB. Okay then. Oh, hang on, I clicked the wrong button. That's better. Right, okay then, let's do this camera for the minute. Right, okay then, yeah, I'll try and make it, I'll try and be quick, but it doesn't usually work. But yeah, here's my Winter Hill in its box. If I can get it to focus, it'll focus, there we are. And that's my, I'll just zoom in on that a little bit actually. That's my HDMI connector, so it goes towards mine goes towards the front. There we are, so it's a fairly short lead. If I can get it to focus, we might get somewhere. There we go. So your job to see it there, isn't it really? Job to see it. But there's a right angled one there, and that cable's just about long enough actually. So that's not too bad. And if we go down the other side for Mike, you can see I have got all the jumpers in, and it seems to be working. So there we are. Although you have to be aware that not all the options that are available on the software could possibly work, because it can't do A and B separately. So you have to make some sensible decisions because not all the options are actually possible. You can't have 12 volts on one and 18 on the other if it's on from the same thing, obviously. Only a mini-tuner-esque software can control A and B separately, but this is the same as the standard sort of mini-tuner type of idea where you can only actually control one. That's how it's been, and it doesn't generally cause much of an issue, but really. And I can understand why Mike says you only need one of those, because you can use 12 volts from the regulator for the other polarity if you wanted to. I didn't want to, because I wanted to partake of the protection afforded by the device, although it's probably not necessary. But anyway, there we are. We've done it, so that's that. Right, hang on. Let me just. I've ticked a box here. There we go. That's better. Got info up on the screen for some reason. Right, so that's okay on the noises and things. Yes, it's been quite illuminating and somewhat disturbing looking at that band viewer. It's far worse than I thought of. But I also have some system generated noises as well on mine, so I need to sort of find out what's what with that. I probably need to do certain things to minimise that from the I think from the lime itself and such like. So it may not be quite as bad as it looks, but it looked pretty horrific everywhere. So it's like, dear oh dear. It is a bit of a nasty environment here, because we're so built up. So I've taken a bit of a chance this week. I've had new gas meter and new electricity meters fitted, smart meters. I don't know quite how smart they are, but it's a bit scary. It's a bit scary actually seeing in monetary terms how much things are costing in standby. It's a bit of a thing there. But I was mainly concerned about any interference caused. So far, I've not noticed anything bad. I was concerned that they might be using communications over the power line, but that one, I don't think this one does. It uses a mobile phone and a sort of Wi-Fi between the two, so we should be okay, because the another little bit of Wi-Fi can't make any difference. it's just absolute disaster around here. But there we go. That'll do for me, I think, because it's a bit long, and XYL she's not starting dinner till I stop talking. So I better go and have a look at that. Also, I've got son number 2 has just turned up with a problem with his car, so I've got to go and have a look at that as well. So just when you thought you're finished, you're not. That's the story of my life. Right, okay then. I didn't see who was next, actually. So there we are. I'm sure they know who they are, so probably the same as the last one, I expect. Probably our friend in Northern Ireland, I suspect. So I'll say 7 threes for now, and well, that'll be the last time up this evening, and see you all next week. Oh yes, it should be okay next week, although I'll have to be quick because I'm on night shift. 7 threes G4KLB.
G4KLB as a group. This is GI4DOH, remembering that I'm still on this camera. And yes, what Wolfgang was saying about guitars and flying. When I worked for Lucent Technologies in Swindon, I flew microlights out of Kemble Airfield. I had a 12th share in a syndicate there, so that was all good fun, but it was only a small aircraft, so I make up for it of having 4 bass guitars. There's a 5-string and an acoustic in there as well. I think in the time that went there, I thought I had a bit of space and played around again, and I think I can go over to my normal main camera. Hopefully that is working okay. Definitely wasn't working earlier, so I'm going to have to go through all the USB ports, what's working on what, and why I was having trouble before. The other thing that I meant to mention that I'd mentioned last week I'd started printing out a box for this little power module. It's now in the box, suitably labelled, feet underneath to allow air to get in through the little vent holes and all the rest, and I'm sure that'll get put to good use eventually. And John, your little video capture device, that seems interesting. I'll take a little nose on eBay for those. It's good to have a second opinion. The Easy Cap is, you know, it can be troublesome at times, and I just was set up. It would be nice to have an alternative. I do have 2 Easy Caps, but if I'm having problems with drivers, I'll have the same problem with them both. And what else? Yeah, Colin, with the printer, if you've changed to the SKR version 2 board or whatever with your Ender printer, you'll probably find that the motor noise is much reduced, because I think it's a 16-bit digital to analog thing as opposed to an 8-bit or something. But also you got so much more memory space there that you can put in the various Marlin features that you couldn't put on the original motherboard, because things had to be cut just to fill the space. But then that in itself will take many hours of playing around trying to get things right, and then having them come back and bite you when you try to change something else. I've been through all that, and determined not to touch the firmware again. So I think it's about it from me. Again, nice to be on the air, get things working. I will start checking more thoroughly that not just that I can put a test card through the satellite, but check that my cameras and audio devices are working as well, rather than leaving it to the last minute. So I wish you all 7-3s, and try to work out club meetings. Yeah, I think it's the week after next, so it should be along next weekend. And I meant to comment, Rob, I don't know about VHF and above here, but I've quite a few noises from the local neighbourhood, and I did actually eliminate one little broadband thing on 80 metres a couple of days ago, and it was a little plug top power supply feeding red pitaya, which I use with skimmers for skimming the bands, and I'm sure it was okay when I first went to use it, but 2 or 3 years on it's obviously decided to be noisy. I suppose capacitors go and things like that. I will at some stage start looking at trying to do things on VHF and above from this QTH, but I think I'm really going to have to use hilltops and things again. I have to explore that in the area now that I've been bitten by the bug and starting to do things above 30 megahertz. So 7-3s, and hopefully see you all next week. And I think it's Bernie G4HJW with the group. This is GI4DOH.
Yes, it is, Richard. Thank you very much, G4HJW, for a fairly brief final. I feel the same as you do, Richard, about having not set things up very well tonight. I rushed in, and it doesn't work, does it? Much better to to put a few other things on one side and not do that. Let's have the camera, take the audio off there, and we should be okay. I was interested in your angling GCE, John. If it makes you feel any better, I did a CSE in gardening where I was. I'm afraid in the 60s, if you were at secondary modern, you weren't exactly expected to do a great deal, which at the time wasn't an issue. I'd almost agreed with them, but as you get older you realise that was an appalling thing to do. I'll have these off. But it's what happened to me. But my way around it was to do radio projects in every subject. So in art, I remember painting the outside of a Valve data book as a picture, and in geography, it goes without saying, I did radio in that as well. And I got very low marks, but nice comments about what I was doing. Just a pity it wasn't relevant to the subject, but that was all that really interested me at the time, so I was happy. It's only later when you look back. Cat, don't you do what I think you're going to do? The cat is in here tonight, and I just have this feeling he's going to jump up onto the keyboard, so if I go off quickly, which I'm going to do fairly quickly anyway, then that's why. Oh yes, Martin, sorry about holding the mic too close. This is all part of the not being organised at all well tonight, for which I apologise. So, and you're at Lucent, Richard. That's interesting. I've had so much stuff come from Swindon, from that place or its or whoever owned it when it did pack up. Much of which will find its way through to Kevin, so will be on sale at the microwave conventions. As will most of Ian's stuff, but I think I said that last week. Right, good night from me. Oh, John, yes, the route up to Lincolnshire. 49 times out of 50, I will do the A1, come off at Colsterworth, and go that way. Go up to Lancaster. Thank you, Cat. You are going to knock me off early. But it is very nice to come down the east coast, well, not exactly the east coast, but the east side of the Wolds. It really is a completely different area, and a very nice area that side. Okay, good night from me. On to you, Noel. See you all next week, hopefully. G8GTZ, G4HJW, with no test card, I think.
Okay, one of my systems hasn't locked up. It has now. That's good. Yeah, I think Noel said he wasn't coming back on, so I shall take it. Let's go across to that. Just to wrap up, yeah, it was a Bulldog, which was a direct successor to the direct predecessor to the Grob Tutor, Gareth, and there's nothing wrong with turning aircraft upside down at the right time. FFmpeg audio is always MPA on a Portsdown John, so that wasn't the reason it didn't work. So I'll take a look at those settings, and be useful to have those notes about getting Rob's software to work on the Raspberry Pi. The Lime SDR has an awful lot of noise on it anyway on the input. I've done some work with the Lime SDR in a metal box, and if you earth different bits, you can take the noise down to about 15 dB below the normal level. So don't be so worried about the Lime showing lots of noise, Colin. It needs a decent preamp on it to raise its noise figure to a point where it'll detect much else, I've found. And the only other thing I forgot to mention is this week we had a BATC committee meeting, just to let you know these things go on. Right, well, thanks for an interesting net. Thanks to everybody, and look forward to seeing you all next week. G8GKQ closing the BATC net for tonight and leaving the frequency clear. Good night all.